God bless America. Hello, everybody. I am the Talk Radio Protege. This is the Protege program. Thank you so much for joining me for today's video. Because it feels like, to me, it's been a little bit of a slow news cycle, I've got a little bit of a short video for you today. Well, I say it could be short. It could turn into a long rant that ends up being a lot longer than I intended for it to be. But today we're going to talk about a survey from Gallup that came out recently, and we're going to talk about partisanship. So, Patriot Post is covering this survey, and their title is Proud to be an American, and I think this cover image says it all. Let's scroll on down now. Let's get the results of this poll. A new Gallup poll holds disturbing results for the first time in 18 years, asking the question, a minority, 47% of Americans are extremely proud to be Americans. Gallup notes that's down from 51% in 2017 and well below the peak of 70% in 2003. The partisan breakdown is most telling. While the number of Republicans saying they're extremely proud has ticked up a few points, Democrats' sentiments have plummeted. In 2013, 50% of Democrats were extremely proud. Now it's just 32%. Liberals are even worse at a mere 23%. It's interesting that the slide began during Barack Obama's second term, only accelerating with Donald Trump's election. And to talk about this question, we have to talk about the question, are you extremely proud to be an American? And what would it take, let me ask you, what would it take to make you proud of America? This question is not so much about are people proud of America. This question is really about, do people have the same vision for America? Because in 2003, you'll note, that's when the peak of the respondents to this question were extremely proud to be American at 70%. In 2003, 70% of Americans agreed on the vision of the country moving forward. The vision of the country was one of unity following 9/11, was one of avenging the men and women who lost their lives in that terrorist attack. Now, these days, you could say that we've moved on from that event somewhat, that the vision of America for people is not this unified. We would expect that, and I think we would expect the vision or the breakdown of answers to this question would break down like this. The people that believe that the current trajectory of America is good for the future of America, that would mean that their vision was of continuing this trajectory. And people who do not agree that this is the correct trajectory will not be proud to be Americans. You know, there's a certain element of patriotism that's always going to be extremely proud to be American. I think that's why there is still 23% of liberal respondents, people that consider themselves to be liberal, who are extremely proud of America. They're proud to be American. They're proud of what America has been able to accomplish. That is that's the element, I think, of patriotism that exists within the liberal movement. 32% within the Democrat Party, and 56% within they didn't actually give the number of Republicans. I would assume that it was somewhere above 50%. I would assume that Republican numbers are much, much higher than Democrat numbers. Let's see, in order to get 47%, let's do some math real quick. Let me just bust out a calculator. In order to get 47%, the average of the Republican and Democrat parties that are extremely proud to be American it'd have to be 32 plus X divided by 2 equals 47. So 47 times 2 minus 32. 62% of Republicans extremely proud to be American. That's just assuming that it's a 1-to-1 ratio. Maybe that's not including the number of Democrats that find themselves to be just proud to be Americans. But extremely proud. That speaks, again, like I said, to a shared vision of the trajectory of the United States of America and a shared agreement that the current trajectory is good. So when 70% of Americans were extremely proud, they thought that the current trajectory was a good one, and they thought it was a noble one. They thought it was one worthy of being pursued. These days, what's the current trajectory of America? The current trajectory of America is putting the American citizens first. The current trajectory is promoting American greatness above global. The current trajectory is about putting American citizens first. And it is doing this to the detriment of some other countries and some other individuals. And that's to be expected. You know, when you're going to say, we want this group of people to excel, it's going to be at the detriment of some others most of the time. Now, if each country was doing what were best for their own citizens according to what the citizens wanted, let's just stop short of that. If each country was doing what was best for its citizens, then each country should be seeking to be the greatest country in the world, the greatest place to come and live, the greatest place to own a business, the greatest place to study. And this would mean that some people would be going to other countries, some people would be coming to the United States. I'm trying not to get too far off topic here, but some people in the United States don't agree that the United States should be putting herself first and should be putting her own citizens first. Some people in the United States apparently don't agree with that trajectory. That means they also don't agree with that vision of the United States. They don't agree that it is noble. And those are the people that are not extremely proud to be Americans. And that brings me to partisanship. We're going to speak about partisanship for a moment. I remember growing up, it was bad to be a partisan. It was detestable to be partisan. Partisan was an insult that was slung around. These days, it is not so much. And I think that's partly because, well, let's be honest, there is a political party that throws around insults more readily than the other. If we're being perfectly honest, I'm not saying that the other party throws around no insults. I'm just saying that one party throws them around more flippantly than the other. And this party was the one flinging the partisanship insult. And now that they want to be partisan, they're pulling back on the insult of partisanship a little bit. And partisanship is only bad if the partisan is doing something against their interests because the other team is doing it. Does that make sense? It's very easy to understand when you think about the Never-Trumpers. The Never-Trumpers, especially the die-hard, will never ever support Trump ever Never-Trumpers, have been against some of what the president is doing, even though it is policies that they have advocated for years, sometimes decades. Many in the Never-Trump camp simply want Republicans to fail so that we can get rid of Trump. Many in the Never-Trump camp, I heard it put this way by a fill-in radio host last week. If the Never-Trumpers had got their way, we would have President Hillary Clinton. And if the Never-Trumpers had got their way, we wouldn't have got the tax cut. We wouldn't have got Justice Neil Gorsuch. We wouldn't have got a potentially second originalist Supreme Court justice appointed to the Supreme Court. If the Never-Trumpers had got their way, we wouldn't have we wouldn't have started down the path of renegotiating NAFTA. We wouldn't have pulled out of the UN climate accords. So that's an example of partisanship, and it doesn't really stick the way that a different example might. But it is a tribe advocating against their own principles simply because the other tribe is embracing those principles. And let's think about something that the Democrats have griped about Republicans doing that a few short months earlier they were advocating for. The most ready example that comes to mind is the migrant crisis at the border. You know, it was under President Barack Obama that the policy of separating children at the border began, that the law and the court decision that established this as policy was implemented. Now, Obama enforced it in such a way that it wasn't as pronounced as Trump. But Trump is simply enforcing the law that was the law while Obama was president, and Democrats who were not complaining during Obama's tenure as president are now pitching hissy fits because illegal immigrant children are being separated at the border. Something that we haven't talked about a lot in this program, Obama deported a record number of immigrants. I don't think that Trump has caught up to Obama in the number of deportations just yet. And yet, Democrats did not complain about deportations under Obama. They have plenty to gripe about as far as deportations go under Trump, but not under Obama. That's an example of partisanship. And when you think about it that way, when you think about partisanship in terms of tribalism, they're nearly exactly the same. Partisanship is opposing policy simply because your opponent is advocating for it. And I would like to think that I don't think of myself as a tribalistic person. Believe me, if Democrats put forward a tax plan that was going to boost the American economy, I would stand beside that tax plan. I would back that tax plan. But they're not going to, because it doesn't forward their agenda. You know what their agenda is. Their agenda is for more control. Their agenda is for bigger, grander, more powerful government. And that's not a government that I am willing to get behind. That is a government that I'm going to oppose. So I oppose the policies that the Democrats put forward. It's not because they're Democrats. I don't have some kind of hatred for Democrats. I simply disagree with their policies. It would be partisan of me to agree with the policy and oppose the party. That's what partisanship is. And as more and more Americans become divided on the issue of the trajectory of the country and the vision for the future of the country, we're going to see more and more partisanship. And I think it's telling that the Democrats have stopped using partisan as an insult in recent years. Even as far back, it really stopped with the election of Obama because they had control of everything. They didn't have to gripe about partisanship because by being partisan, they got their agenda done. But they griped and complained about partisanship under President Bush, and I'm pretty sure that's how we got the last round of amnesty. But that is going to do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed. Make sure that you hit like if you enjoyed this video, hit subscribe and hit the bell for notifications so that you don't miss upcoming videos. Speaking of upcoming videos, I've got a big one for tomorrow. I think you guys should be very excited. I'm not going to give it away, but Roe v. Wade. We're going to be talking a lot about Roe v. Wade tomorrow. It's going to be a long video, and I'm going to pull no punches. We're going to be consulting multiple different sources as we look into this court case, but you're going to have to tune in to find out exactly how we're going to do that. So again, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you'll come back and join me next time. Until then, good night and God bless.